This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. And if you could, please do me a favor and take a moment and leave a rating and review in whatever podcast player you're listening to this on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, doesn't matter. I would greatly appreciate it. And that feedback really helps get other listeners to the show. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you feel so inclined, you can go to geekleader.com/tip and donate to the show. Thanks so much. All right, Geek Leaders, today I'm honored to have Anatoly Kvitnitsky on the show. He is the founder of AI or Not, and we're going to talk about AI today. With all that being said, Toly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John, and thanks for everyone listening.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about your background, how you got into what is it that you do, and how did you come around to founding AI or Not?
Yeah, happy to. My name is Anatoly Kvitnitsky. Everyone calls me Toly for short. I'm the CEO and founder of AI or Not, an AI detection platform going like full stack AI detection to try to help people fight against scams, fraud, and deepfake attacks, whether it's text, video, audio, or image. Right before this, I was a VC for 3 years. Investing in early stage startups, principal at a very large financial institutional VC fund. Before that, I was at a startup, joined as the 12th employee, left at about 250, 300, and eventually became a unicorn. And then before that, I worked at the largest credit bureau in the world. So most of my career was spent on the risk and fraud side, and trying to help companies and people protect themselves against different vectors and different attacks for the better part of a decade. And when I saw what was happening with AI, specifically generative AI, so make that distinction too, I immediately thought this will be the new the toolkit used for bad actors. It creates a lot of amazing opportunities for everyone in the world around creativity, thinking, but I also thought it will do the same exact thing for bad actors and bad use cases too. So that really inspired me to really start AI or Not and try to do a little bit of good to try to prevent the bad coming from generative AI. So that's my journey, and that's what really made me start AI or Not.
Yeah, awesome. And, being someone that's in the media industry, all the generative AI tools have really made our jobs a lot easier when it comes to voice actors or, correcting audio. If I say something wrong, instead of having to re-record a set, I can go in and, use a tool like 11 Labs or something and upload the audio and, just type it what I wanted it to say, correct some of the missteps that we may make in the audio world. Bad actors have the ability to take some of this stuff and also, trick somebody. They can take my boss's audio from a YouTube video or something and use that to send me a voicemail, asking me to wire money or reset his password or whatever else it may be. So there's that opportunities as well. How is it that you guys have gone about trying to combat some of this?
Well, one, you nailed it. The same exact things that creators and people in general are using these tools for, whether it's to personalize an email, create a AI avatar of yourself, or, have your voice say something that you might have forgotten when you actually recorded yourself doing a podcast or something else.
Yeah.
These same exact tools are used for bad as well. Like you said, leaving a fake voicemail, personalized one-to-one email messages or impersonations of real people, famous people or just people within your company or within your life to try to do bad. So the other scary part that, and one, I don't think that generative AI is unique and this happening on the dark side of the use of these tools. I think since the beginning of technology, every new tool that's been released has produced negative outcomes too. The internet created an incredible opportunity for the sharing of knowledge, but also a lot of misinformation too. If you've ever visited a forum. And you go even to more recently to cryptocurrency, creates a new store of value and creates an incredible opportunity to democratize a lot of parts of the finance, but also created a new way to launder money. and for have
Yeah.
criminals move money around. And generative AI is no different. The same things that we use it for good around creativity and new use cases, the same exact things that fraudsters are using it for. So the way that we go about it is we really take a foundational approach to detecting it. So I'll start with images. So on the image side, real images have a certain pixel pattern that whether an iPhone or a DSLR produces, and they have a distinct pattern. AI has a distinct pattern too. And there's a few different foundational models like that, all behave slightly differently. And we've trained AI, our own AI models, to detect those distinct patterns. So we're not counting fingers, we're not looking at like weird anomalies in like someone's eyes. We are actually looking at like the pixel level patterns to discern like what's real and what's not. And that's really been our approach. And we take a really similar one for audio, where certain pitches, certain wavelengths are known to be done by humans, whether it's music, singing, or just speaking. And AI is slightly different, though the human ears can't always hear the difference. It's almost like a certain pitch that animals make that we can't even hear, but they can. It's the same thing, like certain different pitches that a computer will be able to identify and people cannot. That's been really our approach and doing it on a foundational level, make sure we're keeping up to date on all the new tools, all the new techniques being released, and doing that over and over and over again on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I imagine like as you guys are solving, certain problems, being able to detect something, the companies that are making the AI models are like, combating that by, fixing that. You have that undetectable audio piece in there, and they're starting to add that in there, which makes it even more difficult. Where do you see this going in the future?
Yeah, I actually, I can't speak on the generative companies themselves, but I actually don't think we're adversarials to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't think like the 11 Labs, what they're trying to do is trick detection. I actually think, they want their tool not used for bad.
Mhm.
I think it's actually just bad actors are playing that game. I don't think the generative companies are, like in a lot of cases, like in Dolly's case, they actually add a watermark to make sure like it's easier to detect actually, because they don't want their tools used for bad. They're doing their
Right.
absolute best. It's actually the bad actors who are like doing exactly what you described, John. Clearly you're from the cybersecurity world, because like where can this go wrong is
Right.
exactly where things will go wrong. We put our black hats on, and that's exactly how they approach it. And I see this game continuing of just cat and mouse. The AI models are continuing to get better and better. And I actually think in 2025, we're going to see a lot of innovation on the open source side. I think we've already seen it with like the models like DeepSeek being released, and Quen and other models from China specifically being released that are all open source. And those models are incredible for innovation, incredible for building, but they also are incredible for removing all safeguards. Where Dolly and Midjourney are going to prevent you from doing anything bad, are going to prevent you from like recreating weird pictures of like, say, political figures or known individuals, or trying to recreate, John, like you said, a picture of your boss or or the voice of your boss. They will prevent that. But the open source tools, it's kind of all everything is let go. All the safeguards are let go. If there are safeguards in place, the developer can undo them because they have the source code. It's open source. So actually that's where I see it going. The generative AI models are going to continue to get better, but maybe at a little bit of a slower pace. I think this year will be the year of video where we'll really see progress. But I think what you'll see is the open source tools really catch up to the closed source versions. And that will create like even more of that cat and mouse game of being able to detect it and bad actors trying to use those for negative use cases.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, when I see this is right now, it's it's costly to make like a deep fake video that's actually really good. It requires CPU, requires the license, agreement. Or even if you get the open source, it's still you have to have a powerful GPU, a compute expense, and things like that to produce something that's really high quality that'll trick people. Um, But do you see this as getting cheaper as time goes on and becoming a more common approach to where someone will, use it to trick not just people at businesses but also individuals? And or are we already seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the side benefits to the generative AI world is actually personal computers. I think there's been a boom in like more powerful personal computers. Like I got the most souped up computer I've ever gotten, like post AI world, because like I want to do the cool stuff like that maybe an Air won't be able to, but like a MacBook Pro with like a little bit more juice will. And like NVIDIA even published a new personal computer that's like crazy souped up basically for running AI models. I think it's, don't quote me, I think it's like $3,000-$4,000, something like that. So it's a little bit more, multiple more, but not astronomically more of like trying to, have your own server farm in your garage or something like that.
Right.
So I think that you're right, it is costly, but I think if you're motivated enough, and bad actors sure are, they will have machines like locally, not in the cloud, powerful enough to be able to do it. And in a lot of ways, the models are getting smaller and smaller, more and more efficient. I think some of the more recent open source ones continue to prove that. And there's always like the big one and then the smaller one with a little bit of degradation. And the machines now are able to run a vast majority of them locally.
Mhm.
Like you buy, a souped up MacBook Pro or like the new NVIDIA machine comes out. And if you're motivated enough to like do the things that you're mentioning, John, it's like, oh, I don't feel like, like you said, spending $5 a pop. Or in most cases, it's not the $5 or $10 or whatever it is. It's actually, I don't want anyone knowing what I'm doing. Um,
Yeah, good point.
and if I'm completely off the grid, off the network, right? I download this thing, kind of flip off all, go in dark mode, flip off, then now I'm doing whatever I want and there's no kind of trace of it. I think that's actually what's going to happen. And the computers now, if we're seeing the trend, like MacBooks are getting more and more powerful, and the NVIDIAs are getting more and more, they're even doing personal computers. And I think every company will follow suit. Every PC company will follow suit. And I think that will actually be how it gets done. So I hear you for like consumers. It's like, I don't feel like spending $5, $10 to make like a deepfake Tom Cruise video, right? Like, why do we
Right.
care? Like, other than like some funny social content or something like that, or just like make a joke. But bad actors are going to do the same thing, and they're going to try to do it like off the grid without any kind of dependency on a third party. And the computers now that are being created are very powerful and more than capable of running probably 80-90% of the models, and it's just gonna, that percentage is gonna go up.
Where's the legality, like the law behind some of the stuff that's, where, for example, if I went off the grid and, downloaded some models and created a deep fake of, let's go with Tom Cruise, who you just mentioned, maybe, having a quick little, 10-second video of Tom Cruise pitching my product and I put it on Instagram. What's the legality of doing something like that? And what risk do people have, or recourse do they have for someone using their likeness for in that
Yeah,
way?
it's almost like a data privacy thing.
Mhm.
It's dependent on a regional basis, which makes it creates quite the headache.
Yeah.
So like in the US, at this point in time, I always want to caveat that we lean towards free speech. I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. I'm just speaking factually. So there's no, my understanding, there's not a lot of recourse to anyone doing that, and it's been happening with Taylor Swift's selling pans. This went viral. And like I don't think Tom Cruise has sold anything per se via deepfake, but there's been plenty of examples with zero recourse. In Spain, they actually, as part of the EU AI law, well, Europe is very innovative when it comes to regulations in general. So Spain is actually, they put in a fine of $38 million if content is not labeled with generative AI. So I think there's good and bad to being that stringent as well. Like if you're a person, you want to post like some funny meme, of Tom Cruise or someone else, it's like, I don't feel like getting fined $38 million for a meme, that's AI generated, and it's like it could be funny. So, and that China took it, I think China has to be enacted by September of this year of 2025, where you can't let in AI generated content on platforms without a label to it as well. So it's really a country by country basis. I don't know what the right answer is, frankly.
Mm.
I think it's somewhere in between, really stringent fines. Because if you put those fines in, like, who's going to use it? Like, I'm not, if I was in Spain last summer, it's like, I wouldn't be in a rush to post any AI generated memes in Spain, right? If I forget to label it, however that's defined, versus doing things like to fool people or creating like a meme coin with the famous person and it's all deepfake and AI generated, or trying to like romance scam people, like what just happened with Brad Pitt. There definitely should be some penalties there and should be some recourse, but right now, country by country dependent, and frankly, I don't think we have the right answer yet from a regulatory perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of like what is the line between you know, sarcasm and satire versus, fraud? And, are you really trying to pretend to be Brad Pitt, or are you trying to play a joke on, trying to be funny? And,
Exactly.
because there's a difference. And I know with the Brad Pitt thing, the lady, I think she gave away like lots of money. And, but there's also times where people have used, Donald Trump and Biden in videos to be funny, and that, where there is no fraud, they're not really pretending like, that's happening. But so I think you're right. It all depends on where that line is, and it's going to be a very, interesting few months and years where we figure out how the law is going to land on this. Um, what are some
Exactly.
um, uh, other things that we've seen? Because we talked about video and audio and images, but I recently saw an article where someone had created something called, I think it was Same.dev, but it was a tool where you could put in a URL of a website and it would clone that website. Are we seeing people use tools like that to create fraudulent systems, like fake PayPal accounts or something like that to get logins and things like that?
I've seen that too. It is crazy, like, because all they're doing essentially is like pulling down the front end code,
Mhm.
and then just using AI to kind of recreate it and let people like re-edit it. I get this kind of email phishing attack directly to my email about every 2 weeks. It's a fake DocuSign. So it's a perfectly formatted email. That's somewhere, they have me listed, I'm in someone's email database. My email is like, and they send me DocuSigns, like, here's like a funding round, or here's this fun thing. And like, they're really good emails until you check the URL of what the email is. And I learned not to click on them, but it's like a perfect DocuSign email. So imagine if you're an accountant and now you're getting like QuickBook alerts or whatever platform that someone uses, or you're an HR person, you're getting, Rippling or Oracle, whatever kind of alerts to like click on this thing and the website, and it's like part of your normal workflow. And you're like expecting an email that might look like this, and you click on it and it looks exactly the same. It's like, oh, you're logged out. Do you mind logging back in? And yeah, now it's over. And
Yeah.
now you gave access, right, to a third party to someone's entire HR system or DocuSign or whatever the case, and now all of that kind of goes awry. So I've seen it both firsthand, where I'm getting these kinds of emails, and again, maybe John, you and I are trained to like look for this stuff because we've seen like different iterations of it. I'm like, I check the URL before you don't click on anything, even though it's like, oh, might look real. Check the URL of the email. And I think it's just being more and more aware of what's happening, and questioning like what you see, what you hear. Like the slogan for AI or not is actually question everything. And I think that's a really appropriate slogan when it comes to things like this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% right. What is like next when it comes to generative AI, and what do we need to be paying attention to as far as tech leaders out in the industry?
Yeah, what I think is next from an innovation perspective, first we saw text.
Mhm.
Then we saw images and then audio, like you even mentioned, like how good audio is. I think 2025 is going to be the year of video. I think all like
Mhm.
that funky physics stuff of like, the shapes are moving a little weird, the physics are floating a little bit. I think that's the last modality. And if you can see how the amount of money being poured into generative AI, it's only a matter of time before it gets solved. So I think from an innovation perspective, that's the one. You're gonna get like Oscar-winning movie style videos. There's already been music videos created with these AI tools. Like the game created an entirely AI music video. That's actually pretty good. And I think that's the last modality. And then open source community, I think, is in for a really amazing year when it comes to AI. But again, there's negatives to that too, like we mentioned before. But I think
Mhm.
the open source stuff is gonna really going to come in this year as well. And as business leaders, I think there's a few different the things that we should be thinking about. One, it's just being a little bit more vigilant and training your employees of like being aware of like what's coming, like whether it's the emails or whether it's impersonating websites or whether it's like what you see is what you hear. Like maybe the CEO did not email me and tell me I got a raise in a random day, like when I was expecting one, even though I'm sure we all deserve one. Maybe that's not a real video or audio or whatever the case. And you should probably like double check before you start clicking on and typing
Mhm.
in things. And then from a business perspective, I think there's incredible opportunities to like reimagine internal workflows and products. So when I think about like the open source tools, all the companies that are like, but I'd never put in like my production level data into this thing. Even though if it's in the US, like I wouldn't want to send all of my proprietary code to this thing, like they're going to train on it or whatever, like security. But now, if you have your own hosted versions of these tools, and most companies can afford it, like you live in one of the East Coast of financial capitals of the world, where many banks are based, like they can afford to host these things internal and control like data flows. And I think that creates a lot of opportunity for internal workflow while managing like the security and privacy concerns that I think a lot of companies have, specifically companies have with AI. And then from a people perspective too, I think we're at this, we probably still have maybe 12 months or so left where it's okay to be a beginner in this. It's okay we're all beginners, right? This whole industry is a year and a half old, if that, maybe 2 years. But I think we will come to a point where it's going to be a requirement, not like a nice to have. And I
Mhm.
think it's really important just to get comfortable with these tools on a multi-modality basis and like how this affects your workflows. And the really good part is even if everyone is a beginner, I think you're like weeks away from being an expert, especially in your own field with these tools, if you really put your mind to it. So that's what I think will happen with AI in terms of innovation, generative AI in terms of innovation this year, and how both companies and people within those companies and as individuals, we should all be thinking about this in 2025.
Yeah. So when you think long term, as far as like detecting deep fakes and generated AI content, do you see it being more like the way spam filters are today? So like instead of having to take a video or an image and upload it somewhere to where it's just automatically detected that in your browser you saw this, and a score can pop up like in a plugin somewhere that will just say, 75% chance not real or whatever. Or in your email, you have like a little bar go across the top of your Outlook that just tells you, hey, the DocuSign you received here is not a real.
We've been thinking about that a lot. That's a great question. I saw a quote recently online. Someone's like, "Oh, I've been seeing less AI generated images online," and they're like, "Wait." It's like you just don't know to look for them anymore, right? The fingers are fine, the faces are fine. It's like you just hard to tell, right? If you're not like really looking with the magnifying glass. So I 100% agree with you. One of the biggest problems, like you just don't know to look. Just like a phishing email, like you see a DocuSign, you might not know to like, oh, maybe I should check the sender. of this email. The URL like is an actual email that I was expecting. We're actually working on, I love that you said plugin. We're working on an AI blocker plugin. So it's essentially like a path. Every image, you'll have an option to blur it out if it's AI. And we see this from two perspectives. One, companies don't want their employees like making decisions on misinformation or AI generated content. So if you're in the browser, you get an email and it's a bunch of AI generated text or images in there. You don't want the employees like making decisions on this, and it's probably a really great indicator of something's fishy, or something's fraudulent. And then the second part is actually the consumer side. I think that more and more people are realizing how much of the content they see online is actually not real. Like, I'll use social media as an example. I don't think anyone logs in to social media and be like, I can't wait to see AI generated UGC content. Like, I don't think that's what any of like, we want to see people, we want to see people we respect, we want to see family, we want to see friends and like their kids or whatever they're up to. We don't want to see AI generated nonsense. And I think a lot of times consumers are actually just people are just getting kind of tired of it, right? And I am a subscriber to like if this gets out of control, the dead internet theory. Like if every post online is or majority is AI bots, and then every comment online is AI bots, are we just like observers of this like matrix like environment of like just bots talking to bots? I think that's a really weird thing and kind of takes the social out of social media as an example and takes like the fun out of forums and all of that. So I do think there's two ways that we can help. But you're right, a passive way to check, because sometimes you don't even know to check.
Yeah.
Is something we've been thinking about a lot, and we're actually building an AI blocker plugin.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and also when you're talking about like, is it just chatbots, talking to chatbots and no real people there? It makes me think of what is the quality of generative AI going to become when all the source materials are going to be generated a, AI instead of real. Like if all the text that your chat GPTs are learning on is text created by chat GPT, is it going to diminish the quality of that? And same thing with images. Is it going to diminish the quality?
Yeah, there's actually studies that say you cannot train on AI generate like you can't train generative AI on AI generated content. Actually, it decreases the quality a lot. And there's actually been public quotes about this. Like there's the generative AI companies are running out of like data, running out of internet to train on. That's real. Because like for text, for example, like I think there's a very strong case to be made. Like you shouldn't be training on much post, 2022, like end of 2022, right? Because then like, well, can you tell? So you're like literally running out of data to train on, and there's definitely degradation in training on AI generated content for the purpose of generating it. So it becomes like this almost like death loop of like you're training on stuff that it produced, and the quality will continue to go down. The good
Mhm.
part is generative AI companies are aware of this, and I my understanding is they do a really great job of preventing this from happening. But you're right. It is a weird world. Like before, like certain dates. Like now, can we even trust this from like what we see, what we read, and in a lot of cases for generative, what we train on. And there is studies and evidence showing like there is a degradation in what you'll get back if you're training on just like this weird loop of AI generation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's also one of those things where like you have to think about what is the legality of training on, copyrighted material as well, because do I want my podcast, for example, to be something trained on? Maybe not. It all depends on, where that is. And I know there's been a lot of authors that do not want their writings to be trained on. Um, I imagine that's also going to affect some of the quality of the output.
I would agree with that, and I think that's a case that it's a legal case happening right now. Like for example, OpenAI and Google are actively, no surprise, lobbying for looser restrictions on training on copyrighted law,
Mhm.
copyrighted data. This is public. I'm not saying it specifically. China are already doing this, and we need this ability to be able to keep up. On the other side, it's the creators and quote unquote owners. I don't even know what owner is of content anymore. Per these definitions, it's a weird, yeah.
Mhm.
It kind of gets a little weird. And like Hollywood actors, including like Aubrey Plaza, Aubrey, I forgot her name. The Parks and Rec girl. I'm honestly spacing on my actress
Is it
names, but
Brittany Cummings?
no, the brunette one.
Oh,
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't matter. And like Celine Dion, I remember, like she was actually a big proponent of like, don't use my voice for AI
mhm.
training. Like actors, like don't use my face without consent. Scarlett Johansson has gone out and said it. Like her voice has been used by, in movies and as well as by GPT bots and
Mhm.
chat bots. So they're like they're strongly against it. So it is a weird in between. One company I'll credit that's doing this really well is Midjourney. So Midjourney, in my opinion, is the highest quality image generator that's available in terms of realism, art. Is I find it incredible, like what they're able to do and how, head and shoulders they are above anyone else in the space. And I also give them credit that they will never, like, they won't produce an exact replica of someone. Like, if you wanted to, let's stay in the Tom Cruise, the most deep fake person up until probably a year ago in the world, they won't actually produce an exact representation of Tom Cruise. They'll make someone like that kind of looks like him, but they'll like mess it up enough that you're like, yeah, it's not him. And you have to believe they do that on purpose. Like their ability, like I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, like, I bet they could produce an incredible, realistic deepfake of Tom Cruise if they actually wanted to, but they prevent that from happening.
Mhm.
And they have a lot of safeguards in place. So maybe there's like some happy in between of yes, a lot of content's being used to create the best possible AI, like to innovate and to help like US based companies or wherever the companies are, per their purview. But also prevent like the spitting back out, almost like regurgitating like your book or your podcast or like the exact thing, and it's only done for the general AI purpose, but not to spit it back out and it in its exact form. And maybe that's maybe there's something there yeah, to find a happy medium where the AI improves while the likeliness, the content of John or John's podcast or Celine Dion's voice is not being replicated identically. That could fool someone. So maybe there's a happy medium.
Yeah, because I think what I was hearing about is that they wanted to use the content as free use because it's not being, as you said, spit back out. It's more like you're citing the work. If you're writing a paper, you can use somebody's work if you're cite it in the paper, but you're not plagiarizing it because you're not, just stealing it word for word. So yeah, I get that. Um, totally. This has been a great conversation. How can people learn more about the things that you're doing on AI or not and connect with you online?
Yeah, a website is aiornot.com. If anyone wants to ping me, I'll share my email. It's just Toly at aiornot.com, Toly. You can find me on LinkedIn, find our company on LinkedIn, and any other like social media platform that you prefer. And I'd be happy to chat or hear any feedback. And especially love hearing from, our hundreds of thousands of users around the world.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'll link that in the show notes too at geekleader.com so people can go there and click through. And again, totally thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate having you on.
Thanks for having me, John.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Please go to geekleader.com to learn more about what this guest is up to, click on their links, and connect with them online. I would also greatly appreciate it if you could leave me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. And make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. And if you feel so inclined, you can leave me a tip by going to geekleader.com/tip.